From the moment Claire was born, she was second. Second to cry, second to be held, second to matter. Her older sister Emily had arrived 2 years earlier, pink and perfect, with the kind of angelic features relatives would coo over endlessly. By the time Claire came along, the novelty of parenthood had worn off, and her arrival was met with polite smiles, not fireworks. There were no photo albums filled with her first steps, no squealing voice recordings of her first words. If they existed, Claire had never seen them. The difference between the sisters was never subtle. Emily got ballet classes, piano lessons, horseback riding weekends. Claire got hand-me-down leotards that didn't fit, and a recorder from the thrift store with someone else's name scratched into the side. When Emily broke a bone falling from a pony, their mother took 2 weeks off work to stay by her side. When Claire caught pneumonia at 12, they called a neighbor to check in after school. Claire learned not to expect much. Birthdays were a quiet dinner at home, a "sorry we were busy" if a gift was forgotten. But Emily? Her birthdays were productions balloons, custom cakes, themed parties. At one party, when Claire was 11 and Emily turned 13, Claire offered to help serve the guests. Her mother gave her a plastic tray and said, "Just stay out of the way, sweetie." And Claire did. For years. It wasn't just the big things. It was the accumulation of small dismissals. Emily got the bigger bedroom. Claire got the one with the drafty window. Emily got the new phone when it was released. Claire got the old one with the cracked screen. At parent-teacher conferences, her mother once asked Claire's science teacher, "She's not failing, right? Because we're focusing on Emily's college prep right now." So Claire focused too, but not for their praise. She studied late into the night, scribbling formulas under her blanket with a flashlight, not because anyone was watching, but because it was the only thing she could control. She taught herself to code. She aced her math classes. She didn't miss a single day of school for 3 years straight. She got into the top university in the state. On scholarship, her mother blinked when Claire told her. "Oh, that's nice," she said, before asking if Claire had remembered to pick up Emily's dry cleaning. Her father didn't say anything at all. By the time senior year rolled around, Claire had stopped trying. Not at school there, she thrived, but at home, she moved like a ghost. She cleaned up after herself. She didn't ask for rides or money or attention. She found part-time work tutoring other students and saved every penny. She stayed late at the library to avoid the dinner table. Emily, meanwhile, came home for weekends in her tailored blazers and Chanel perfume, taking over the kitchen with her boyfriend and their shared giggles. Her parents laughed along with them. Claire would eat in the laundry room, pretending she was just in the middle of something. Still, Claire told herself it was almost over. One more semester, one more round of exams, then freedom. The day she submitted her final paper, she called her mom. She hadn't told them she was about to graduate with honors. She didn't want the conversation, but she figured it would be polite to let them know. Maybe they'd ask if they could come. Her mother picked up after 5 rings. "Oh, hey, Claire. Hold on, I'm in the car. Emily's showing me a new brunch place." "I just wanted to let you know," Claire said quietly. "I finished. I'm graduating next week, with honors." There was a pause. "Oh, that's good. Wow, next week already? Time flies. Listen, let me call you back, okay?" She didn't call back. Claire's graduation ceremony came and went. She wore her cap and gown, walked across the stage, and heard her name echo through the stadium. No one cheered. Her phone was silent. She handed it to a friend afterward to snap a picture, just one, so she'd have something. It was only when she got back to her apartment that she saw the posts. Emily had tagged their parents in a series of photos, smiling around a huge custom cake with a banner that read, "Congrats Emily and friends, class of 2023. The caption read, "So proud of all our girls. So lucky to have such a supportive family." Claire stared at the screen. She wasn't in any of the photos. Her name wasn't mentioned. The worst part wasn't even that they hadn't invited her. It was that they hadn't noticed she was missing. She sat down on the edge of her bed, still in her gown, and laughed. Not a happy laugh, but the hollow, sharp kind that sits behind the eyes and never reaches the throat. A knock came at the door. It was her landlord, reminding her rent was due in 2 days. Claire nodded. thanked him, and closed the door without speaking. That night, she lay awake and watched the ceiling until morning. When the sun came up, something in her changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just a shift. She opened her laptop. She didn't cry. She started to plan. Claire didn't speak to anyone for the next 4 days, not to her classmates, not to her professors, not to the barista who knew her order by heart. Her phone remained on silent. The gown still hung over the back of her chair, a crumpled reminder of the ceremony no one came to see. The diploma neatly framed and mailed by the university sat untouched on her kitchen counter. The silence wasn't depression. It was construction. Brick by brick, she was building something, and rage was the cement. She started by sorting files. Years' worth of text messages, screenshots, and emails from her parents and Emily. She wasn't sure why she'd saved them all. Some masochistic instinct, maybe. But now they served a purpose. Claire read them line by line, documenting every instance of dismissal and neglect. Birthday reminders ignored. Pleas for help turned into errands. Moments when she was a ghost in her own family. Then she opened a new document on her laptop. At the top, she typed one sentence. "If they won't remember my name, I'll make sure they never forget what I did." By the end of that night, she had written out a timeline. Not of her life, but of theirs. The moments when her family had leaned on her without realizing it. The college loans she'd helped research for Emily. The internship Claire had once recommended to Emily's boyfriend. The favor she'd done for her mother's church fundraiser that ended up going viral. It hit her how deeply she had threaded herself into their narrative even as they tried to cut her out of theirs. So she picked a date, 2 weeks from then. Emily's official graduation party, the one being hosted at their parents' home. With catered food, backyard lanterns, and matching custom sweatshirts that read, Team Emily. Claire was not on the guest list. She knew that because her father had accidentally forwarded her an email confirming the RSVP numbers. No mention of her name. No correction after she replied, "Wrong, Claire?" The email was never acknowledged. Perfect. Claire didn't want to be on the list. She wanted to be in the silence between the lines. She wanted her presence to be felt precisely because it had been erased. She ordered a package, not 1, but 4. Each one labeled with the name of someone important in her family's social orbit: her mother's church group leader, her father's company boss, Emily's best friend's mother, and their longtime neighbor Mrs. Patel. The contents were curated with surgical precision. Each box contained a professionally printed booklet titled, "A Tribute to Emily and the Sister Who Wasn't There." Inside, Claire had written a brutally honest essay, not angry, not dramatic, just factual. Cold, calm, measured. She listed the years of silence, the birthday she spent alone while Emily's party raged on downstairs, the college recommendation she wrote for Emily that was passed off as a gift from mom, the night their parents forgot to pick her up from debate finals because Emily had a hair appointment. She added photos, not doctored, not spiteful, just real. Pictures where Claire stood off to the side while Emily held center stage. One image from a family trip where Claire wasn't in the group shot because she'd been asked to take it. Another of her as a child, sitting alone at a picnic table while the rest of the family laughed around the grill. She included one quote, just one from Emily's own public blog, in which she once wrote, "Honestly, being an only child taught me independence." Claire didn't add a return address. She timed the deliveries to arrive the morning of the party. While her family prepared fruit platters and table runners, their most respected acquaintances would be flipping through her story-age copy tailored slightly depending on the recipient. For the church leader, she emphasized the lack of Christian kindness. For the neighbor, the years Claire helped carry groceries while Emily walked ahead. For the boss, the irony of neglecting a daughter who graduated magna cum laude in favor of the one who dropped out of grad school. But Claire wasn't done. She scheduled a social media post. Not on her main account, she knew they would block it. Instead, she posted anonymously in the town's community group, attaching the full story and photos under the heading, "Meet the girl behind the banner, what Team Emily forgot." She set it to publish 1 hour into the party. Then she packed her bag. Not to hide but to leave. Claire had been accepted into a fellowship abroad, quietly. She hadn't told anyone. She'd applied 6 months ago, unsure if she'd even follow through, but now it felt poetic. As her parents' backyard filled with laughter, Claire stepped onto a train headed toward the airport. She didn't smile. Not yet. She was waiting. Because the real gift was just arriving, and none of them were ready to open it. The party began exactly as Claire had predicted, flawlessly curated and devoid of sincerity. In the meticulously trimmed backyard of her parents' suburban home, lanterns swayed gently under a clear summer sky. Waiters in crisp uniforms passed around champagne flutes. A floral arch stood over the photo booth, where Emily posed in her ivory cocktail dress with friends, tilting her head just slightly for every camera. Her father greeted guests near the entrance with an arm half-wrapped in a grill apron he never used. Her mother flitted between tables, laughing too loudly, hugging women she hadn't spoken to in months. It was a spectacle. The kind Claire had never been allowed to be part of. By 2:00 p.m., the place was full, dozens of guests from church, work, and the neighborhood, all clutching personalized tote bags marked Team Emily. There were speeches scheduled. A cake with edible glitter, a playlist approved by Emily. The plan was airtight. Then the first guest walked in holding a white envelope. It was Mrs. Patel, 90 minutes early for once. She clutched the package against her floral blouse like it might burn her fingers. Her smile faltered when Emily's mother greeted her. "You received something too, didn't you?" Mrs. Patel whispered. "What do you mean?" the mother asked, blinking. Mrs. Patel hesitated, then slipped the envelope into the mother's hand. Across the yard, Emily posed beside a printed banner that read, "Our brightest light." The second envelope arrived in the hands of her father's boss. He was less subtle. He marched straight to the bar, ordered a scotch, and muttered, "Quite the story, huh?" to no one in particular. A third woman approached Emily's best friend's mom and pulled her aside. Within seconds, their heads were huddled together behind a hedge. At 3:04 p.m., the scheduled social media post went live. It began spreading like smoke through dry grass. Within 5 minutes, Claire's post had over 200 shares. The comments ranged from confused to outraged to uncomfortably specific. Is this the same Emily who forgot her own sister at that fundraiser? Just read every word. Heartbreaking. Wait, she wasn't even invited to the party? Are you serious? At 3:08, someone in the crowd pulled out their phone and tapped on the screen in disbelief. Another woman turned her head toward Emily, then back to the post. Then another. By 3:12, a tremor passed through the party, silent but visible. Conversations faltered. Laughter trailed off. Claire's mother walked out of the kitchen, holding the now open booklet, her fingers clenched so tightly around the spine that it had bent. Her mouth opened, then closed again. She looked across the yard for her husband. "Where is she?" she whispered. Not out of curiosity, out of fear. Emily, who had just taken the mic for her thank you speech, was still unaware. She smiled at the crowd and said, "I feel so blessed to have such an amazing family." A sharp voice interrupted. "Tell us about Claire." It came from the back. No one turned to look. The silence was heavier than the air. Emily blinked. "Isery, who?" Someone stepped forward, phone raised. "Is this true?" she asked, holding up the screen. "You had a sister who graduated this week, and she's not here? At all?" Emily's mouth parted slightly. Her eyes darted to her mother, who looked stricken. Her father was pale, lips pressed into a line. Don't know what this is," Emily stammered. "Someone's just trying to cause drama." The words died in her throat as another voice called out, "I taught both your daughters in middle school. I remember Claire. She was the one who stayed behind to stack chairs. She never had a ride home." The sound system crackled as Emily lowered the microphone. She glanced at her parents. The neighbor, Mrs. Patel, stood up from her table and said clearly, "I think we all need to take a breath and ask why none of us knew she even existed." Gasps. Whispers. Phones buzzing. Someone dropped a glass. Claire had chosen not to be present, but in that moment, she filled every inch of space. Emily ran off stage, trembling. Her mother followed, shouting something unintelligible. Her father turned toward his boss, who gave a short, curt shake of his head. In the background, someone turned off the music. The wind blew through the banner, causing it to twist and fold. Our brightest light curled into a distorted shape, letters bending at unnatural angles. Across the world, Claire stepped off the plane in a new city. Her backpack was light, her heart wasn't. She stopped at a cafe near the airport, opened her phone, and refreshed the post. 50,000 views. 4,000 comments. One message caught her eye. "I don't know you, but I had a family like yours too. Thank you." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The party had ended long before the cake was cut. And the gift had been delivered beautifully, mercilessly, and right on time. 3 days after the party, the house that once hosted lanterns and laughter was quieter than a hospital waiting room. Emily hadn't left her bedroom. Her phone lay powered off under her pillow. She had tried to open Instagram once and immediately closed it after reading the first 20 comments. Words like cruel, shallow, and disowned your own sister glared at her through the screen, typed by strangers who now seemed to know Claire better than she ever had. Downstairs, her mother sat at the kitchen table, staring at a mug of cold coffee. She hadn't spoken much since the party. Occasionally, she would open one of the booklets, reread a sentence, then close it slowly as if trying to erase it from memory. Claire's father spent most of his time in the garage. No one asked what he was doing in there. No one cared. The neighbors had stopped waving when they passed by. The church group chat had gone silent. Her father's boss had canceled their next meeting, citing recent concerns in his email. There was no fixing it. No statement they could make. No excuse believable enough to rewrite the truth Claire had written because it hadn't been dramatic, or emotional, or even angry. It had been too calm, too clear. The kind of truth that doesn't fade with time. And Claire? She hadn't looked back. In a city that didn't know her name, she felt strangely known, not by people, but by herself. For the first time, she wasn't orbiting someone else's world. She was building her own. She woke early each morning in her new apartment, made coffee on a small gas stove, and walked to the fellowship lab where she worked on real problems that needed real minds. She taught kids how to code in her spare hours, not for praise, but because no one had done that for her. She took the long route home. She breathed fully. She laughed without flinching. One night, weeks later, an email arrived. Subject: from Mom. No greeting, no warmth, just a paragraph. "We didn't realize how much we hurt you. I don't know if you want to speak with us, but we are sorry. Emily hasn't been the same. Your father wants to call, but he doesn't know what to say. Neither do I. I hope you're okay." Claire stared at it for a long time. She didn't reply. Not because she hadn't forgiven them, but because forgiveness didn't require a response. Not anymore. They would talk, maybe. One day. Or they wouldn't. She wasn't holding her breath. The point of her gift was never to ruin their lives. It was to return hers. To reclaim the years she spent invisible, the birthdays she spent alone, the effort she poured into a family that only clapped when someone else was on stage. She walked to the balcony and stood there for a while, letting the night air press against her skin. Somewhere far away, her parents sat in a house that now felt a little too big, a little too quiet, and far too empty. They would remember her now. Not because she screamed, but because she didn't. And that silence would follow them longer than any speech ever could.